Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If we could just do a quick audio check. If someone can hit the raise hand button just to confirm you can hear me okay, that'd be helpful. Thanks, Chris. Loretta, are you with us?
I am with you, yes.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello.
I can.
Okay.
Thank you for confirmation on that, guys. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. My name is Dan Petito. I am an inside account manager here with Design Point Solutions. The other lovely voice on the phone is my colleague Loretta Stiurca. And Loretta is an application engineer here with Design Point. She's also a SolidWorks and SolidWorks electrical specialist. Loretta, thank you for taking some time to run through some stuff with us.
Sure thing.
And yeah, you might be looking at the title and saying to yourself, hey, obviously SolidWorks isn't a hair loss supplement, and we're aware of that. But, you know, we're just going to go through, you know, a handful of ways that, you know, SolidWorks allows you to work more quickly and efficiently, making your job easier to do and a little less stressful. So, again, thanks for taking some time to join us. I do ask that if you do have some questions, if we can just keep those tabled until the end of the webinar. We do plan on setting aside a few minutes to answer any questions that you guys may have. You may have them now, or you might generate them throughout the course of the webinar. So I do ask that if you do have a question, just please hold off until the end of the webinar, and we will spend some time specifically to get those answered. So again, thanks again for taking the time. By way of agenda, just a couple bullet points as far as some things that we'll see today that Loretta will demonstrate. Handful of things. So basically, you're going to get an understanding for the interface of SolidWorks, fully customizable, familiar, intuitive interface. Some of you may be using it already or have had some experience with SolidWorks that you might be able to attest to that. Going to be looking at some of the visual feedback and some of the visualization capabilities, you know, being able to get a clear visibility into your design. Some of the search tools, you know, obviously being able to, you might have a list of commands that you typically use. SolidWorks makes it very easy to basically, you know, find those additional commands, track them down very easily, and integrate them into your design process. Bring dimensions into drawings with model items. There are built-in tools for interference and collision detection. And you guys can see the rest of the list and get the gist, right? So just ways that SolidWorks will make your life and job easier and help you work more efficiently with respect to CAD design. So for the purposes of today, Loretta's going to dive into a few things on the technical side, but basically what we're going to be doing specifically in SolidWorks is Loretta, as far as part design process, where she's going to be designing a bike pedal in SolidWorks. The next step there is Loretta is also going to document that bike pedal, and we're going to create a 2D drawing. And we're also going to insert that bike pedal into the assembly, which in this instance is a bicycle. And we're going to use some of the built-in interference detection tools to ensure manufacturability and ensure that this product does work as it was initially intended to. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the reins over to Loretta. And take it away, Loretta.
Thanks, Dan. Yep, so I'm just going to start off by modeling a simple part in SolidWorks. We're going to be modeling this bicycle pedal. But what I want you to notice as I'm designing this bike pedal is how little my mouse is moving. I don't have to move my mouse all over this screen to actually model this part. So I'm just going to jump into SolidWorks now. And we're starting with a blank sheet of paper. Okay, so this is my graphics area, and that's where I really want to do most of my work here. So I'm going to start off by creating a sketch. Okay, so this is like back of the napkin sketch that we're creating here. Now throughout the demo, I'm going to be using some shortcuts. So this, all I have to do is hit S, and this window pops up with all of my most used commands. So this allows me to focus, again, on what I'm modeling rather than going up here and finding the command that I want. It's really easy to use, and it really makes designing things quick and easy. So I'm going to go ahead and start by sketching a rectangle here. I'm just going to place this on my page, and I'm going to be working, let me change it to millimeters here. So again, on my top plane, create a sketch, and our rectangle tool. So I'm going to add some dimensions to this just on the fly. So this is going to be a 95 by 75 rectangle, and I'm just going to offset that very quickly. Again, using my shortcut key, I can quickly find the command to offset my entities, and then I select one, and SOLIDWORKS selects the rest of the entities connected to that for me. So you can just reverse that very quickly, hit OK, and now we're starting to build up our bicycle pedal even more. Okay, so now we're going to in the middle section of this bicycle pedal. Again, I'm just going to hit my shortcut key, bring up the command. It's a very quick thing to do to access that. And I'm going to add 2 lines in here. Now, as I'm sketching here, you might notice I'm getting some visual feedback. These lines are black while these lines are blue. And what that means is that these parts of my sketch are not fully defined. You can see I can drag them around here and do all kinds of things with them, whereas these black parts of my sketch are fully defined. So if I grab and I drag, I change it. So we need to add some more information in here to fully manufacturable, to give it the information that we need to manufacture it. So I'm going to just select 3 lines, and I want to actually make that symmetric. So if I select 3 lines at a time, there are these in-context menus that SOLIDWORKS gives us. It's intelligent enough to know that we might want to add one of these relationships to those 3 sketch parts. I'm going to make this symmetric. Now that I've done that, if I drag my line around, you can see that it maintains that symmetry for me. So again, I can very quickly add in those relationships. And the other thing that you're going to see during this demo is that I'm using something called mouse gestures. If I right-click and I drag up or around, I can very quickly select, again, some of my most commonly used tools. So this is my dimensioning tool. I use this all the time. All I'm doing is right-clicking and dragging up, and now I can click on these lines and give them a dimension to fully define them. So as soon as I add this dimension in here, you'll notice now parts of my sketch have turned black, which means that it's completely defined. And now we're ready to actually move on to give it some thickness. Okay, so I'm just going to activate my command here to give it some thickness, my extrude command. And at this point, SOLIDWORKS allows us to select contours of our sketch, which is really cool. So we can select maybe just the outer edge here, and let's give it a mid-plane relationship. And now because we have 3D turned on, instant 3D turned on, we can just drag this up and snap it to a ruler so that we can quickly give this some thickness here. Okay, so we've got part of our pedal now. Now we want to use that sketch. All we have to do is find that in our tree, select it, and we can extrude it a second time, selecting some different contours here. So we can put all the elements that we need into one sketch and then just extrude parts of it at a time. So I'm going to make this mid-plane as well. And again, I can just drag this out until I get to the correct thickness there. Oh, I used a cut extrude instead of a boss extrude. So I'll select my sketch, give it some thickness. I was material away instead of adding it in. Mid-plane, and let's just drag this up to about 20 here. Right-click to accept, and that's how easy it is to do that. Okay. So the other thing that's really easy to do is to make a design change. So I made this all the same depth. If I want to change that, I can just my tree, edit the feature, and maybe I want to extrude that to 30. Say OK, and the change is applied very quickly here. Okay. So we've got kind of a pedal shape going on. We need to have a hole so that we can actually connect this onto our bicycle. So one of the things that SOLIDWORKS does really well is it allows you to create sketches on faces rather than on planes. So if I want to create a sketch here on this face, all I have to do is click on it, and again, it's giving me this in-context menu that allows me to create a sketch on that face. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And using my shortcut key, I can very quickly sketch the outside of a hole. And then, of course, pull this into our model. Okay. We also want to add some areas where we can have reflective tape. So I'm going to create another sketch on this side. And notice how quickly I'm doing this, adding dimensions on the fly. And just extruding it in. Okay, so it's looking pretty good now. Okay, so this feature, we actually want to mirror this over to the other side of our petal. So we can do that very quickly. Again, we're just going to activate our mirror command here. I'm going to select the right plane. You'll notice on screen it's giving us visual feedback so that we can tell which plane is which in relation to our model. I'm going to select the right plane here, and I'm going to select that cut extrude and accept it, and you'll see now it's mirrored to the other side of my part. Okay. The last detail I want to add onto this petal is that I want to round these edges so they're not sharp anymore. I'm going to grab my fillet tool, and if I select one of these edges, SOLIDWORKS is actually intelligent enough to give me a selection to select other faces, other edges as well. So we're going to select all of the edges connected to the starting face here, and we can fillet all of those at the exact same time. Okay, so now let's make this model pretty. It's pretty much done, but I want to add in some a color here so that we can make this reflective. So I'm just going to go and edit the appearance of that. Again, this is right in my modeling area. I'm going to select that face, maybe choose a color here, an orange color, grab the face on the other side, and I'm good to go. Maybe we want to apply a black color to the rest of the model. Let's like for the whole part, we'll just give it like a dark, maybe a dark gray here. Would be nice. Okay, so at this point, we're actually done modeling our petal. It's very fast. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in something called a mate reference, which will help us when we get to the face where we're actually adding this to our bicycle model. So if I just select this edge here, I can actually tell it that this is what I want you to use to attach to the rest of the model. And that's all I'm going to do. So you'll see how that works here in a couple of minutes when I'm actually putting this into the bicycle model. Okay, so at this point I'm just going to save my work. I'm going to call this petal. Save it. And so what we saw there was that like the workflow is simple and intuitive with SOLIDWORKS. It's actually a really easy tool to learn just because it is so intuitive, and all these menus that pop up intelligently in the drawing space make it easier for you to focus on what you're modeling rather than going up to the left, up to the top, all over the place. Okay, so the next step is to document our design with a drawing. And what I want you to notice here is how I'm able to reuse the work that I just did when I was designing my model to create a drawing that will communicate this to other people. Okay, so directly from my model, I'm just going to go and I'm going to create a drawing file. So this is actually linked to my part file at this point in SOLIDWORKS. Now over here on the right, we have what's called the view palette, and it provides us with a bunch of the standard views of our model. We can actually just take these and drag and drop them onto our page. It's very easy to get started. And then once I've placed my first view, if I drag my mouse around, we can project other views off of it. So very quickly I can get all of the views that I want on my page, and that's it. Okay, so maybe we want to change the way that we're displaying one of them isometric. Maybe we'll make it shaded. And at this point, we're ready to add dimensions to our model. Now we actually already added a bunch of dimensions when we were modeling the parts. So SOLIDWORKS gives us this really awesome tool called Model Items. I also have that here on my shortcut panel. And that allows us to import all of the dimensions that we added to the model into our actual drawing. So I select all of these. I can actually go ahead and that up a little bit. And now we're mostly done doing our drawing. Now this is huge. For those of you that are already doing drawings, you know this is a very time-consuming task. So getting this head start on the drawing is going to save you a lot of time. Well, maybe at this point we want to add in a couple of other dimensions. So I'm going to use my mouse gesture to grab my dimension tool again, the same one that we were using in SOLIDWORKS. And I'm just going to add in a couple of other things here. Maybe we want the width of this. And maybe we want a little detail on this view, so we'll just change the way that it's displayed. And we can add in, for example, the width of our hole there, and the depth of this. Now, the other thing that we can do from the drawings, since we're using model items, and since the model is linked directly to the drawing, is that we can actually make design changes. So if I edit, for example, the width of this here, and I change it to 50, I rebuild, I can see that change applied to the model. I said if I go back into that part file that we were just working on, I can see that change as applied here as well. So everything's up to date between the two documents, and we're not having to go back and check the model and update the drawing or redo the drawing. We just make a change in one place and it applies across the board. So I'm going to change this back to 75 here, and let's see how it goes the other way. Go back to the drawing. Again, everything is up to date, exactly how I want it. Now that's how easy it is to create a drawing in SOLIDWORKS. And you'll notice this is all placed in this beautiful template here that I've created, and that was automatically imported. You create it once, it's linked to properties of your model or of your document, and everything is up to date there as well. Okay. Okay, so what we saw there is that we were able to automatically place those views of our model and create a production quality drawing very quickly. Model items allowed us to import all of our dimensions automatically, or not all, but most of them automatically, and drawing errors because the two are linked by direct. Okay, so let's move on and take this pedal and actually put it in an assembly, a bicycle assembly. Okay, so back to our pedal, I'm going to go ahead and open up our bicycle. I just hit the R key here, which allows me to access all of my recent documents. I'm going to open up this bicycle that I've been working on. You can see I have some components placed in this assembly. And I want to add my pedal in here, and of course on the other side as well. A couple of pedals in here. So remember earlier I selected this edge here, and I made that a mate reference. This is where that's important. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Insert Components. I'm going to select my pedal, and now I'm just going to drag my mouse over my assembly. You'll notice when I hover over cylindrical objects, it tries to snap in place, which is great. It's actually creating mates. It's actually stick to the model in the way that I want it to stick in there. I'm going to place that there, and I'm just going to go and quickly place one on the other side. All right, so now it's attached there. Maybe I want to add in a couple of mates just so that it stays parallel with the top plane. If I select two entities, again, this intelligently predicts which mates I want to add in there. I'm going to grab the top plane, make that parallel. Now let's take a look at how this actually moves. If I drag this pedal around, it's actually turning my back wheel here. It's very easy to add new components into our assembly. The other thing I want to mention is that, again, this has a link to the actual part file. So if I make a change here, maybe again I change this to 50. Okay. Both pedals update, right? And if I look back in the part file, again, it's changed here. So if I make a change back to 75, and I look back into my assembly, everything updates. The drawing, the assembly, and the part document are all in sync with one another, which is really great. Okay, so the other thing that's great about SOLIDWORKS that can help you keep all of your hair is that it really enables design reuse. And there are a lot of different ways that it does that. One way it does that is it provides you with this design library tool. If there's a part that you create once and you know you're going to use it all over the place, you can actually just right-click on it and go Add to Library, and it'll actually add it into this design library over here in your task pane. So I've added a bunch of different things in here. You can actually reuse all kinds of things, annotations for drawings. You can reuse assemblies. You can reuse features of a part. You can reuse actual parts. So under parts, I actually have bicycle parts, so I can reuse a pedal or a wheel here. But the other thing that you get with Professional and Higher is you get the SOLIDWORKS toolbox. And the toolbox is it's basically a library of a whole bunch of parts that hardware parts that you might want to use in your assemblies. So if I open this up, we can see that we've got all kinds of things in here. We've got bolts and screws, bearings, keys, jig bushings, pins. So I'm going to grab one of these pins, and let's take a look at how this works. Okay, so if I grab one of these pins over here, all I have to do is drag and drop it into my assembly, and it actually snaps into place using mate references, but it resizes to fit the hole that you drag it on top of. Dragged it there. It has a size that's automatically determined. Hit OK. That's all I have to do. So I've pinned that in place now. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just hovering my mouse over it, and I click to place it, and that's it. So it was that easy. I just attached these two pedals into my assembly. Okay. That's kind of a bonus. I want to show you a feature that I love that was added to SOLIDWORKS 2015. It's called Flatten Surface. So from the assembly, we can open up any part, again, with this in context menu. I'm just going to open up the seat here. And let's say I want to know what this surface is like when it's flattened. I can actually now flatten any surface I want to. Let's say I don't have that command on my shortcut key, okay? And I haven't even used it before. Let's pretend. Well, I can actually go up here and just search for any command I want to. So I'm going to type in flatten, and that command is going to come up. So from here, I can either activate it, or if I click on this little pair of glasses over here, I can have SOLIDWORKS tell me where this is located. So I'm going to do that now. It's going to move my mouse over, and it provides a red arrow. So now I know that's located on the Surfaces tab. So I'm just going to go ahead and activate that command. I'm going to select this surface to flatten, and I'm going to select this point to flatten from, and accept that. let's take a look at the surface that we just created. So this is fantastic. If we're doing any kind of laser cutting, or we're printing some labels and we want to know what the outline is, we can now take this and print it out, get an idea of what that looks like. I do want to mention we could always do this with sheet metal parts, but it's really cool that now we can do this with any surface we want to. Just going to hide that. Okay, so that was a little bonus. Go back into our PowerPoint. So what we saw there was that we were able to very quickly mate everything in place. In fact, some of the mates were added for us automatically since we added that mate reference into the part. We were able to very simply place it and position it. And then the design library in the toolbox allowed us to increase our productivity. We were able to just snap those pins into place, and they optimized for us. So the last thing I really want to talk about is this interference detection, which is built right into the software. And this allows us to get an idea of whether or not this is actually ready to go to manufacturing. Okay, so let's say I want to find out if this pin is interfering with this crank here. So all I have to do is go up to my Evaluate tab, okay, and click on this interference detection option here. From here, I can select the components that I want to detect interferences between. So I'm just going to click this and this, and click on Calculate. And now SOLIDWORKS shows me exactly where my interference is. So this tells me there's an interference. It actually gives me the volume of the interference. And now we can just make a quick design change and eliminate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just change the diameter of this here. I'm going to change it to maybe 10. Oh, that's a little too small. So we can see visually that's going to be too small for us. I'm going to change that to 15. Oops. Q, rebuild it. That looks pretty good. Let's make sure. So I'm going to go back up to interference detection and very quickly select the components I want and calculate interferences. And as you can see here, we have no interferences between those components, so we know that we're good to go with this assembly. Okay, jump back into the PowerPoint. So let's see, what we saw there is that we were able to very quickly check for correct or design flaws before we take this to manufacturing. So Dan, I'll hand it back over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, that was awesome, Loretta. Thanks for running through some of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. So the bike works. Good to see. So yeah, I guess just to kind of recap, you guys can kind of get a sense for the thematic part of the webinar, right? So SolidWorks is very easy to use and powerful CAD system, and will help you again work more quickly and efficiently. So things like the interface and customizability. You saw Loretta use the mouse gestures feature to use some of her commands in the context of the design environment. So huge time saver there, as you can imagine. And you can customize something like that to include whatever your top list of features or capabilities are. And Loretta's kind of factored in some things that she uses and how it applies to the way she designs in SolidWorks. You also saw the mirroring feature, adding multiple fillets to the pedal relatively quickly. And one thing I don't think we necessarily touched on, but is interesting to note is obviously the easy 2D drawing generation, but some of the associativity features. So as you make updates and changes to your 2D drawing in SolidWorks, it in turn makes updates and changes to your 3D model. And vice versa. So changes to your model are also reflected in your 2D drawing, which is awesome. So, thanks again for running through that. Next slide, Loretta. As far as, just in case you guys weren't aware, obviously, this was a SolidWorks CAD-centric webinar, but they really do, SolidWorks has, solutions for every stage of your design process. So outside of strictly CAD, tools for your technical documentation and creating your assembly instructions, tools for simulation, running FEA studies, structural tolerance analysis, frequency analysis, things like that. Be able to, get an idea for how your products will perform in a real-world environment. Have an upcoming webinar on data management specific to SOLIDWORKS EPDM. And SOLIDWORKS for electrical design as well. So, just as an FYI to you guys, really is a tool for every stage of your design process. We included, next slide please, Loretta. This slide's pretty self-explanatory. If Brad Pitt did use CAD and SOLIDWORKS, he would still maintain that awesome head of hair. Pretty self-explanatory slide. But we did want to take a minute just to pause and answer any questions that you guys might have. You may have come in with some, you may have formulated some as we went through the webinar. So, we'll take a minute or two here to get some questions answered in the event you guys do have some. So please ask away. I am not seeing any hand raises, so I'm assuming we've all wowed you. Looks like we have a question coming in. Let's see. During interference detection and modifying one part to fit with another, can you make it relational? Let's see.
Okay, so
I'm just pulling that up. Wow, so just give me 1 second. We had a couple come in.
I can see a couple more questions in here.
Yeah, I've seen them coming in too. Okay.
Okay, so I see one of them. I'm not sure I understand that first question. If you could.
Can you set one diameter to? I'm just trying to bring up the pane a little bit larger. I'm having challenges doing that.
Yes. So, okay, how do you activate the mouse gestures? That's a great question. Let me show you in SOLIDWORKS how we do that. So, under Tools, you go down to Customize. Over here, it's a tab second to the rightmost. We can specify our mouse gestures. Okay, so we can actually enable 8 mouse gestures if we want to, and then we're going to have different gestures depending on where we're working. So if we're working in a part, these are the mouse gestures that I have active, and I can go through my commands and say, oh, I actually want to have this mouse gesture for this in this context. So that's how you enable them. Okay.
Great question.
Putting dimensions into, great question. When putting dimensions into a sketch, can you enter the value in a different unit scale than the default for the workspace? Absolutely. So if I create a new part here, and I'm in inch/pound/seconds here, I'm going to create a sketch here. If I want to, I can add a dimension in here, and instead of putting it in inches, I could put like 15 millimeters. And it'll convert that for me. Now, if I wanted to make this segment equal to this segment, all I have to do is select the two, hit the equal relationship, and it'll automatically pop that into place.
No problem, Chris. And yeah, sorry, Tom. I saw the second part to your question. So during interference detection, modifying one part to fit with another, can you make it relational so that you can set one diameter equal to another without value entry? Are you seeing that, Loretta?
Yes. Oh, okay. Set a diameter equal to an existing diameter. Excuse me. Yes, you can. Yeah. So I guess in this case, what we could do is we could edit this part in the context of the assembly and find the diameter here and say equals, and we can find the diameter of this. Oops, I'm not editing it. I can take this and set it equal to a dimension. If I can get that one to pop up. Open this part. The short answer is yes. I think I just didn't actually add in the diameter into this piece. So if you don't add the diameter into it, it's a little trickier. But the short answer is yes, you can do it.
Great question. And, obviously, Tom, if you do have, more specific questions that we can't necessarily dive into on this call, again, you feel free to reach out to myself or Loretta, and, we can take that question offline and if you'd like. So great question. Sure, Eileen. So I'm assuming that you're asking about Windows 10. We haven't gotten confirmation yet as to whether or not 2016 will be compatible with Windows 10. We are still waiting on confirmation for that. My recommendation at this point, Loretta, let me know if you disagree, but would be to hold off on installing SOLIDWORKS on machines with Windows 10 or until there is official word from SOLIDWORKS on compatibility. We're expecting that it will be, but we're just waiting on official confirmation.
Yes, so you can always check the SOLIDWORKS official page for system requirements. I'll bring that up now so you can see that. So this is where you're going to want to look. Right now, we can see that they're supporting up to Windows 8.1. I suspect that it won't be too long before they have Windows 10 listed there, but I would hold off on that until.
I would hold off on that as well. Yeah, our recommendation until we have the official word would be to hold off on installing SOLIDWORKS on any of those machines until we do have official confirmation. So that's our recommendation up at this point until we do know for sure. So great question. Great question.
Really good question.
I'm not sure I understand the free software part. Eileen, I oversee education accounts here with DesignPoint. If you'd like to give me a call directly, I'd be happy to walk through any other questions that you have. I'll look up your information, maybe shoot you an email so you have my info, and I'd be happy to run through that with you in more detail if you'd like. So great question, though. Cool. Okay. Any other questions that you guys have at this point? I appreciate the ones you've asked already. We'll take another maybe 30 seconds. If you guys do, I think I saw Bob. Bob, did you have a question? I think I saw another hand raised. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, Tom, can a toolbox pin create the hole in same placement depth?
Can Toolbox create the hole itself? You wouldn't do that through Toolbox. What you would do is you would use something called Hole Wizard. So under assembly features, there's this Hole Wizard command, and you also have Hole Series. Those are two really powerful commands that will allow you to add your standard hole sizes in, and then just drag in your hardware into that hole, and it will cut it for you. There is another feature. You can create a smart component that will actually cut into your model at the same time as being placed. So there is potential there for that.
Great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. Appreciate the questions, guys. Another one coming in. See that one, Loretta?
Yeah. Including a hole wizard feature. You would want to add the hole first there. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Appreciate the participation, guys, and definitely all great questions. So, obviously, Loretta, thanks again for taking the time to run through. Oh, another question.
Dimension.
Trying to do the dimensions.
Yeah, Bob, I see your question. I'm thinking that there might be something. Let's take that question offline. I can give you a call after this, and we can take a look at it together.
Yeah, and Tom, if you do have more specific questions, feel free to call into support. one of our application engineers can walk you through that in more detail if you do have more specific questions outside of what we were able to answer now. So definitely feel free to give a ring in support if you have any other questions specific to the whole wizard feature and that sort of thing. We'd be happy to help you.
Great.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, yeah, thanks a lot for the participation. Hopefully you found some value in the webinar. Thank you again, Loretta, for running through the technical part and answering some of the questions here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday afternoon. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.